Pratishta to the lotus-like feet of Bhagwan. And before we join Vandana and our Katha for this morning, I sing a beautiful bhajan. It says, O Lord, today we are blinded by the darkness of ignorance. O Lord, I ask that you grant us the light of wisdom so we can follow on the correct path of life. We are sometimes lost within the sorrows and darkness of ignorance. Lead us through your reassuring rays through every step in our life. May you cast that divine light so we are able to discriminate between negativity and positivity. Prabhu, I ask you for your praise as I sing this beautiful bhajan this morning. आज अंधेरे में है हम इंसान, ज्ञान का सूरज चमका दे भगवान। आज अंधेरे में है हम इंसान, ज्ञान का सूरज चमका दे भगवान। to be able to think of what the reflection of today should be. And I offer my sincere condolences to those children and family that were lost in the heinous acts that happened early on in the week, and I'm sure we are all aware. It is beyond devastating to hear that children who had their whole lives ahead of them were stripped of the opportunity to live because of a sick, troubled, demented individual. And there's a reason why this pulpit exists, no matter who is the presiding Purohit, we ask. And it exists not only to discuss the good at times, but to also recognize that there is bad in the world and we must strive to make a change. Try to change this negativity into positivity. I and this mandir and whatever other religious organization, its goal should be to touch individuals, a little less than that, to touch individuals within and realize that hatred, anger, lust, jealousy isn't the way that we must live our lives. And I urge you, if you or someone that you know is suffering from any mental calamity, please find them help. We need to do better. We need to be better. I try to put an end to these senseless and dangerous acts of violence. So in our prayer this morning, I ask Bhagwan that we pray for all the victims. We ask God that may their souls find peace. May the parents find solace in this time of grief. And we join in Vandana, repetition of mantra to Bhagwan. We cover our heads, we close our eyes, and clasp our hands. Om Hari Om. Hari the leader of the Navgraha Devatas, just as we look out the window and your sun rays are shining ever so bright, may those rays of positivity shine within my life. Om Adideva Namostubhyam Prashidamavashkara Divakara Namostubhyam Pravakara Namostubhe Brahma Murari Shipurantakari गुरुत शुक्र शनि राहु केतु कुर्वन्तु सर्वे मम सुप्रभातम्। ॐ ग्रीं सूर्याय नमः। At the obeisance of Vishnudeva, the embodiment of peace, O God, I ask you, God, may I have peace as I look to challenge a troubled week ahead. May there be peace in my job. May there be peace in my school. May there be peace in mind overall, Bhagavan. I ask you for that. Om Shantakaram Bhujagashenam Padmanabhyam Suresham Vishwadvaram Gaganasatvrisham Meghavarnam Shubhamyam Lakshmikantam Kamalanenam Yogi Vidyarinamyam Vande Vishnu Bhavaveharim Sarvaloke Kanatamyam. Om Shri Vishnave Namaha. Application selection Ma. Om Siddhi Buddhi Prade Devi Bhukti Mukti Pradayani Mantra Murte Sada Devi Mahalakshmi Namostute Lakshmi Karotu Kalyanam Arogyam Sukha Sampadam Mama Shakro Vinashaya Deepajyote Namostute. Om Shri Dhanalakshmi Namaha. I pay oblations to that celestial form of Mother. You know, when you look back in your life and you remember the hard times, you remember the times that were not so happy, you would run and sit into the lap of the Mother and you would say, Mom, please caress me. Please hold me. I just want to be close to you. We ask the same thing with our Celestial Mother Ma. Om Sarvamangale Shive Sarvatra Satike Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namostute Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapali Durga Shama Shiva Ratri Swaha Swada Namostute. Om Durgaya Namaha. Nagindraharaya Trilochanaya Vashmangaraya Maheshwaraya Nityaya Shuddhaya Digambaraya Tashme Nakaraya Namah Shivaya Karipura Gauram Karunavataram Sansara Saram Bhujagindraharam Sada सदाम संतं हृदयारविन्दे भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि। ॐ नमः शिवाय। We sing, we clap, and we join the Hanuman Chalisa we do every Sunday morning. Shri Guru Charana Saroja Nija Mana Mukula Sudhara Varano Raghuvar Bimala Jisho Jodayak Palajai Buddhahina Tanu Janike Sumiyo Pavana Kumar Bal Buddhi Vedya Dehu Mohi Harahu Kalesha Vihar Jai Hanuman Jnana Guna Sagar Jai Kapish Dinhu Lok Ujagar Ram Dut Atulita Kalanama Anjani Putra Pavan Suthanama Mahavir Vikram Bajrangi Kumat Nivar Sumati Ke Sangi Kanchal Varana Viraj Sudesa Kanan Kundal Kunjit Kesa Haat Vajro Vajra Viraj Kane Moon Jani Usade Sankar Suvan Keshari Nandan Teja Pratap Kumar Jagavanya Vidyavan Guriyati Chatur Ramakaj Karive Tuak Prabhu Charitra Sunire Ko Rasya Ram Lakan Sita Manasya Sushma Rupa Narisya Nidhava Trikata Rupa Narilanka Jarava Dima Rupa Nariyasura Samare Ramachandra Ki Kajasavare Rahayas Jeevan Lagna Jiyare Shri Raghuveer Harsh Urlaye Raghupati Ki Bahut Haraye Tuma Mama Priya Baratai Samavare Sahasaran Tumharo Yesh Gave Has Kahi Shri Pati Kanta Gave Sanakanika Brahmani Bhuvesa Nara Saya Sayatharisa Yamukuhir Nikapale Nahate Kavi Kovid Kai Sakai Nahate Tuma Upakare Surina Nina Rama Milaya Raj Padina Tumaro Mantra Divishan Yamana Lankeshwar Hai Sab Jagana Yuga Sahasra Yojana Paramanu Hiro Rai Madhur Paradhan Prabhu Mudrika Me Undamani Dal Dilati Hai Acharachanai Durga Prakar Gagat Seve Sukhamaro Tumare Tere Ram Duare Tumar Pavare Mohan Ramya Vinay Sare Sab Sukharane Tumari Sharana Tumara Sharikaro Korana Apan Dev Samaro Ape Dino Lokan Ke Gave Dujati Sajan Kat Nahi Aave Mahavir Jab Ram Surave Nache Rog Hare Sab Piya Jagat Nirantan Hanumat Veera Sankar Se Hanuman Chutaye Maj Prabhu Jin Jana Jora Sab Par Ram Tapai Sri Ram Ke Kaaj Sakal Tunsar और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन कर पावे चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा एक सिद्ध जगत उजियारा साध संग के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे भक्त सिद्धि राम जी के दाता असवर दीन जानकी माता राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा सदा रघुपति के दासा तुम्हारे My dear friends, devotees, earlier in the month of May and throughout the month of May, we as descendants of the Caribbean, Fiji, South America, South Africa, Mauritius, celebrate and commemorate the arrival of people from the Indian subcontinent to each of their respective nations as indentured laborers who were brought by European colonists to live and work in a no man's land. And today's katha is a little less of a religious one, but more of a cultural and traditional and historical lesson for those who may not know. This year marks 176 years of the presence and movement of the East Indians to Trinidad and Tobago. And I use Trinidad and Tobago because that is where my ancestors are from. But many of the Caribbean nations, Guyana, Suriname, the Caribbean people who come from this Indian diaspora should be proud to celebrate Indian Arrival Day. And I set the scene for you to visualize. Think that it is 1845. There's a ship known as the Fatal Al-Razak, and it is ready to depart the docks of Calcutta. Our foreparents were promised a new beginning, a new life. But to the contrary, most were beaten, abused, mistreated, and they headed off into the seas of the unknown, the Kalahari, not knowing if they were to ever return back home. Imagine if you were to leave your home, leave your house on a daily basis, and you were not sure if you would ever see or step foot in that home again. They did not know if where they were heading were going to keep them alive, but yet they were in search for betterment. Betterment from the conditions that they were in. And who it was for? For themselves? No. They searched for betterment for the future generations. And while on this boat ride, the English started their mission to strip them of their identity. You know how they say nowadays people have identity crisis? They wanted to rid them of their full identity for who they were. They started to make the men take off their dhotis or lungis or cloth that they would have worn and make them wear pants. They decided that the women should not wear saris, should not wear their cultural clothing. They made them wear other garments. They would beat them for speaking in their native Bhojpuri tongue. Either they were to speak English, don't speak at all. They started to give them other scriptures. There's nothing wrong with other scriptures, but the Bible they would give them. And they would say that this way of life is better than yours. Is anyone better than the other? Is being a Sikh different from being Muslim? Is being a Hindu different from being a Christian? They're all different parts of the same journey of Paramatma, liberation, moksha. But our ancestors stood strong. They weathered that storm and they had to fight that physical, mental, emotional fight to preserve the roots of who they are. And we all know that when time passes, history begins to fade. Things begin to change, but we must always remember the good and the bad of history in order for it not to repeat itself in a negative way. And if we can reflect on one thing, in the past 2 years, it was undeniably a challenging experience for all of us. Many of us suffered immensely through COVID, through health ailments, through drastic food prices, the drastic gas prices, some of us not being able to have the common healthcare necessities. We are seeing it on the news, and this is a pulpit for realization of the truth, the reality of the world we have to recognize to try to make a change. If we don't, then we just play that in this four walls nothing else exists, and we have no advancement, we have no growth as a people. And I mentioned earlier, there's an absurd increase in crime. We are seeing how unsafe this world is becoming. We can only imagine the terrible things that can exist for others who may be in a worse situation than ourselves. If, for example, in our own schools, children cannot be safe, and it's very, very sad and heartbreaking to witness that. Our ancestors, they placed the greatest emphasis on education and knowledge. They always made us and made sure and instilled that we went to school, that we learned. And I always remember growing up, they would say the quote, knowledge is power. Because with knowledge, it's true, no one can take advantage of you. No one can manipulate your mind anyhow once you have that knowledge. And one of the most devastating things, and I take a lot of pride in influencing people towards a more positive thinking. You hear me say over and over, not negativity, positivity. I try my hardest to instill those ideas that we need to be more positive towards our attitude of many things, even simply for the environment. There's so much happening internationally that can cause for global change. Hindus, especially, we tend to treat our land and waterways as a dumping ground for sewer and garbage. And it's a simple truth. If you go across Cross Bay by Rockaway, you'll see and I say mess that they leave. And they think they're doing good. They think that they're praying to Ganga Ma, they're paying adoration to God, but in return you're hurting the environment. Is that God? We are hurting the same Prithvi, this Mother Earth. 3 weeks ago, when I gave my Mother's Day Katha, I tried to instill the values of 7 mothers, and Prithvi Mata, Mother Earth, is one. Do we care for Mother Earth? Our ancestors realized the greatness of Mother Earth. They realized in our prayer we say Agni Devata, Varun Devata, Vayu Devata, the sun, the fire, the water, the wind. We see as Hindus, as Sanatanis, God in the animate and inanimate. We see God in everything. Whether it be the minuscule or the greatest of objects, but one exists in it. So why shall we hurt it? And in the community, we have another issue. And it is the survival and continuity of the long traditions and customs and value systems that we have. The continuity of these core values are important because it continues to create a sense of flow and unity and movement to enhance our present cultural and social systems. Each of these generations needs to be reminded that they too carry the responsibility of maintaining and further enhancing themselves as a people. Truth be told, the older generation isn't going to be around here forever. So we as the younger generation must upkeep that mantle to preserve oneself and to keep our way of life going. And on a yearly basis, we celebrate this idea. We celebrate Indian Arrival Day because we treat the inherited values through their actions, through the strength that they persevered to a high standard. And they traveled through this Kala Pani, the unknown waters. The Kala means black, Pani is water, black waters, to an unknown land and ended up managing to settle. And they constructed a formidable living space where they went to mold us into who we are today. Do you ever think that they would have dreamt that we would have existed here in America, New York City, where freedom of religion exists, God willing, that there's no persecution to perform prayer or adoration to God? We can do it as free and as openly as we want to. Do you think they would have ever dreamt that? They would have ever thought that that would have become an aspect of living? With no hate, although it exists, but we are free in our little environment to continue adoration to God. And my ancestors, for example, my grandmother, great-grandmother, grandfather, great-grandfather, they are no longer here for me to truly repay their gratitude and tell them thank you. But I know, and in the same way you can, truly repay this gratitude is by showing the appreciation and thanks. And I say to you, it is the duty of the current and future generations. They are tasked, they are a tough task, to maintain and enhance these beliefs and value systems. I would personally and loosely consider myself to be a member of the generation that needs to upkeep these core value systems of who we are. You know, I never told anyone this, but I'll tell you what, because this is a family group this morning, that one of the biggest reasons that he said we don't fund it was because if I didn't do it, in my mind, on my grandmother and grandfather's side family, none of my cousins didn't become pundits. And it would have died out in my family. And that's the way I looked at it. That I wanted, if I can give just that one hope of it continuing, whether it be one day to come, nephew, son, whatever, it at least has the ability to continue for one more generation. And that's my thanks I give to my ancestors. That's my thanks I give to the ones who come before me. Because without them, we would not have been where we are today. And in those days, you know, they lived a simple life, a very cohesive idea of family. That all the practices and the ideals and the beliefs handed over in a seamless transition from one generation to the next. And for example, again, the idea of being a pundit, priesthood. It followed a predictable flow. You would have from grandfather to father to son to next generation, passed down the line. And there was an endearing quality behind it, of it being in that lineage. And at the time they would grow up, even though it was big and complex families, who know that their grandmother had 9, 10 brothers, or 5, 6 sisters. It was big families that they had, not like today. And everyone in that family was in charge of grooming, of teaching that child within that home the social, cultural, religious education to those children. And it included even in the community. The community was part in molding. Family here, family there, everyone joined together in making sure that child grew up properly. But today, nowadays, we live in a little bit more of a challenging environment, where it's more of an isolated lifestyle, with different family types, new families being created, the idea of the age gap in between families, social media. It's becoming wider and wider, and a rift that is kind of destroying that transition of family to family value systems. This present community system is so much at risk, and no one can deny the reality of it. That the youths face, you see, the youths, they face the hardest, and me too, I know that one, face the hardest task. The younger ones would hear me speak or hear any prophet speak, and they would think that our way of life is missing. They would think that it's obsolete, that it's old-fashioned, compared to what is being offered and given throughout this modern-day technology and movement. This has always been and will be a paradigm shift as Hindus. The way we think and the way we believe will change. The customs and practices and beliefs these days are sometimes viewed as antiquated or not popular, even to the mundane or the minimal task. Why do we perform Murti Puja on a Sunday morning? Is it because we just have extra flowers that we want to give God? No. It's adoration, it's love. Within that flower, the sweetness, the nectar. So many bees or insects would feed off of the nourishment. We say, Bhagavan, we ask that you accept this. When we perform arti, we just waving a fire around God? No. It is the significance within the diya, the cotton, the ghee, the wick. We are saying, Bhagavan, this is for you. When we give prasad, although it's not a giant tally of 3 feet wide of fruits and prasad, but in a small katora, we say, Bhagavan, with our earnings, with our love, we made this and we give to you. Majority, 16-step char puja, when we perform puja, it has no real giving to God, you know. God is Maryada Purushottam, God is God, the highest of creation. Do God need grains? Does God need cotton? Does God need single? No. But we say to Bhagavan, you made us able to have. And we give back in the smallest way to you, Bhagavan. Even in the small God, this is what I give with love. And, you know, I try to leave you with one instilling idea. That there's a concept in Hinduism, a word, and you'll learn it today. There's one thing you learn today, you learn this phrase. Upakara. And it means voluntarily and selfless service to mankind. We don't see this anymore in the world. There's still many of you, like you all here, even though it's a holiday weekend, you're seeing the greatness in performing adoration to God. Upakara, do we give our time and effort into giving back to the world? Many people see giving that back as a waste, you know, not you. But they would say that it's a waste of time to give back to their fellow, thy neighbor. And you know the irony of it all, and the real shocking part, is these days, even simply driving down Liberty Avenue, you will see so many people in need, so many people have a shortage who don't have, and yet we are unable to help those when there's an abundance of people who need help. And I'm bringing to this mundane example, and I'm not trying to troll with it, forgive me if it sounds like this. But simple task, cleaning the temple. Back then, the generation before me or the generation before them would have known that it was their duty to clean the mandir. No one had to ask them, no one had to beg them. They did it with a breeze. Because there was love, there was passion. But nowadays, this generation needs to create a cleaning schedule. They need to have a list. We need to clean the bathroom, we need to clean the floor, we need to wipe down the emergencies, we need to clean all that. And still they don't get done. Or still they forget. Why? Because the love, the passion, the agni, the fire within them isn't there. And this is something we have to look at and realize with the past generation, how great and hard working they were. They didn't let nothing stop them because they wanted the betterment. There was no sense in giving up that willingness to service to God and service to mankind. But our minds have been taken over by this give and take attitude. People say, when I give, I must get back. But no one realizes when you give in abundance, you get back in abundance. But don't look for the return. And to the younger generation, as I said before, they face a tribal task of overcoming the ideas of external sources of media. COVID has taught us that it's no longer necessary to really meet people face to face in order to engage with them, to converse and make new friends. The rules of social engagement between one another, luckily enough, through COVID, the monitor was open. But who knows if it would have been a Zoom monitor, one over here and the rest of you all at home. The face-to-face engagement is so important. And I love technology. I'm a big believer in technology. I thrive from it. But it has created a developed sense of a double personality within us. It has changed these rules of social engagement. Something that was once considered to be odd and to be strange has now been completely acceptable in today's world. We create this double personality, sometimes one online and one real life. And most times it's hard for us to distinguish which one we truly are, which one we are living in the moment. I saw an article last night and it spoke of the dangers of identity crisis and dual personalities. And you'll see it more in this world because of this. People aren't, and the reason I'm saying this and I'm bringing it to the conclusion of our ancestors, they understood the value of being together as a people. For example, in our wedding house, I'm not that fortunate where I was back home for so long to witness weddings, but from what I hear, the entire family, 20, 30, 40 people will come, sacrifice their time and efforts into ensuring the groom or the bride, they can give their efforts as much as they can. These days, you have to beg people to come and help. Or you have to pay. You can't even get them to help. You have to pay outside to help you. And that's the importance of realizing the good parenting, the value that they put as family, as friends. I know we have to acknowledge, as the next generation, that changes are inevitable. There's a quote that says, change with the times will change you. And these changes as a society can bring positive and negatives, but the trick is to use rather than abuse. In the same way that adjustments and adaptations to our traditions, our belief, our customs must happen, they must evolve. These advancements should be used to ease our day-to-day life, but should not come at the expense of extinguishing our core value systems as a people. Moderation is key. Moderation in diet, as that must be tried. Moderation in social ability. Moderation of anything. Each and every one of us must do our upkeep and part. And I say to the future generation that there are certain values that will never go out of style or go out of fashion. Those ideas are prehistoric, dinosaurian. Some and most still hold great value. They say don't reinvent the wheel, right? If something works, if something isn't broken, don't fix it. There's a reason the tradition, Hinduism, especially Sanatana Dharma, is the oldest religion in the world, the longest pervading religion in the world, the religion with no male founder, because it continues to adapt, evolve. And my my Indian rivalry katha ends on the note that adaptations and adjustments are extremely necessary. Our foreparents would have wanted us to adjust the same way they did when they crossed the Kalamani, when they went into the land of the unknown. If they didn't make these changes, they wouldn't have been alive. Who knows? So our foreparents did what they had to do to ensure their survival. And I found a post on Facebook, and it was a part of a podcast, and they say they want to change the name of Indian Arrival Day to Indian Survival Day. The aspect that our ancestors was able to survive through the torments, that they didn't just come and arrive and it was auto happy and everyone was playing mass and good. It was sad, it was torment, it was pain, it was anger, and they survived it. And the British would wash their hands clean and say, yeah, leave the Caribbean as it is. But we have to reflect on how hard they worked. And I commend, as a product as well of Sanatana Dharma Mahasabha, of how strong we stood the ground in keeping the ideals of core values alive. And I nodded my head with approval, and it was so touching to hear the stories of those who came crossing the Kalamani. So I urge you all not to let the glory of your foreparents die in vain. Stand for what they would have stood for. Believe in what they would have believed in. Look at them from being indentured laborers or slaves to who you are now. Think of where you can take yourself or the future generation in the time to come. Satya Sanatana Dharma Ki Jai. As we join in Havan, we prepare. I invite all of you on June 11th and June 12th, a cordial invitation on behalf of me and the Hindu Learning Foundation to be here. It's Saturday night the 11th and Sunday morning service at 9 o'clock. We will be in the grace and presence of my Guru's Guru, Pandit Bimal Maharaj from Kamoto Shangrad. So I urge you all, if you're able to come, it's a beautiful night of satsang, bhajans, just to be in the glory of God and the presence of Guru. I ask you all to be there. Om Arumatam Dasam Nilgotra Papuk Nam Shri Agni Devata Sthatyasana Vinyoga. We can join together and say Swaha as we offer Agni. Om Shri Agni Namaha Swaha. Om Namo Narayanaya Swaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Swaha. Om Shri Gauri Devi Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Guruve Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Guru Devatabhyo Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Hanumante Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Mahasaraswatye Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Hanumante Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Ramaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Surya Devataya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Varun Devataya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Prithvi Mataya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Bhayu Devataya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Shukraya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Shanishravaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Bhaumaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Buddhaya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Bhashkaraya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Chandravase Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Ketave Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Rahave Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Ketu Devataya Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Sarvadevi Sarvadevata Namaha Swaha. Om Shri Sarvebhyo Brahmanebhyo Namaha Swaha. Repeat the Gayatri Mantra 3 times. Om Bhurabhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat Swaha. Gayatri Namah. Om Bhurabhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat Swaha. Gayatri Namah. Om Bhurabhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् स्वाहा Brahmyatvidam Noma. Make offerings for ancestors, Swatha, towards the right. Mother is mother side family. Om Mata Kulpityo Namaha Swatha. Father side family. Om Pita Kulpityo Namaha Swatha. Guru and Guru side family. Om Guru Kulpityo Namaha Swatha. Rishis, Munis, Brahmins. Om Rishi Kulpityo Namaha Swatha. Any family members that may pass away. Om Sarva Kulpityo Namaha Swatha. Any friends that may pass away. Om Sarva Bandhu Pityo Namaha Swatha. And for the entire world, we make offerings for them. For those who don't get offerings. Om Sarva Samasta Bandhu Pityo Namaha Swatha. We all stand and for devotee. Om Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Sarvam Vai Purnavam Swaha Om Sarvam Vai Purnavam Swaha Om Sarvam Vai Purnavam Swaha. We stretch our hands over Agni and pass over our bodies. Om Papo Ham Pap Krama Ham Papa Ham Pap Sambhava Rahimam Pundari Kakshasava Papa Haro Hari. Is it going to for all? Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Jai Jagadish Hare Bhakta Jano Ke Sankat Das Jano Ke Sankat Kshan Mein Dur Kare Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Jai Jagadish Hare Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Jai Jagadish Hare Bhakta Jano Ke Sankat Das Jano Ke Sankat Kshan Mein Dur Kare Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Jai Jagadish Hare Jodave Palpane Dukha Vinase Maneta Swami Dukha Vinase Maneta Sukha Sampatti Gaya Sukha Sampatti Gaya Karshani Te Kaneta Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Jai Jagadish Hare Mata Pita Tumhare Sharan Kaho Kisaki Swami Sharan Kaho Kisaki Tumma Vinna Maran Pooja Tumma Vinna Maran Pooja Aashik ho jisdi Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Jai Jagadish Hare signifies the greatness in our ancestors for what they strive for. Kaho ek baar hai metro, sanatan dharma ki jai ho. Kaho ek baar hai metro, sanatan dharma ki jai ho. Karo parijay duniya mein, sanatan dharma ki jai ho. Kaho ek baar hai metro, sanatan dharma ki jai ho. Kaho ek baar hai metro, sanatan dharma ki jai ho. सनातन धर्म है सच्चा, तो गाया जिसको वेदों में। लगाओ मन सीने तुम, लगाओ मन सीने तुम, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। कहो एक बार है मेरे, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। कहो एक बार है मेरे, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। सनातन धर्म छतरे थे हजारों पट मेरे मन में। कभी मुख हो नहीं मोड़ा, कभी मुख हो नहीं मोड़ा, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। कहो एक बार है मेरे, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। कहो एक बार है मेरे, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। ऋषि संतान होने को जो नाम रखते हो, चारों धर्म अपने को, चारों धर्म अपने को, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। कहो एक बार है मेरे, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। कहो एक बार है मेरे, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। ये विनती शाम करते हैं, दोबारा को करे भगवान। सदा संसार में स्वामी, सदा संसार में स्वामी, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। कहो एक बार है मेरे, सनातन धर्म की जय हो। सनातन धर्म की जय हो। सनातन धर्म की जय हो। We close our eyes, we ask Mahan to say, Prabhu, if we have made any mistakes today, we will be forgiven. Or if we have done what is right, we may be blessed in abundance. Prabhu ji, दया करो, मन में आनंद सो। प्रभु जी, दया करो, मन में आनंद सो। संस्था मंत्र तू जान नहीं जानो, प्रभु, I don't know any tantras, I don't know any mantras, I don't know any yantras, I don't know how to worship you to the way that is standardized, but I know how to love. Tantra mantra puja nahi jano, tantra mantra puja nahi jano, मैं तो केवट तुमको ही मानूं, मैं तो केवट तुमको ही मानूं। प्रभु जी, प्रभु जी, प्रभु जी, दया करो। त्वमेव बन्धु च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि उमापति महादेव की जय सच्चे सनातन धर्म की जय नमः पार्वती पट हर हर महादेव गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वर गुरु साक्षात् ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Today I was aware that we are celebrating his birthday. Longer, I sang 2 lines. Birthday song. बार बार दिन ये आए, बार बार दिन ये आए, तुझे हज़ारों साल जिंदगी में आरज़ू. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. बार बार दिन ये आए, बार बार दिन ये आए, तुझे हज़ारों साल जिंदगी में आरज़ू. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. May you have the happiest of birthdays. Give them a round of applause for his birthday. May whatever or one blessing upon you, may you receive it abundantly. May you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Tomorrow is a holiday, and enjoy the rest of the week. Om Tat Sat.